Good morning, everybody. It's Martin, the sales strategist, here this morning, and lovely to have you all here. Where are we into? April. Holy crap, Easter already. Jeepers creepers, losing weepers. And this morning, I'm joined by a friend of mine, David Bellamy. David Bellamy is owner of Suncoast Concrete Repairs. And welcome to the show this morning, David.
Thank you, Martin. And I've been actually really looking forward to coming on and talk to you.
Awesome. So, when I first met you and you said that you're in the concrete repair business, and I have a bit of a background in construction, but I must admit, I'd never heard of concrete repairs. I thought that concrete just went in and it was there for a perpetuity. So why the hell would anyone need to have their concrete repaired, David?
They need to have the concrete repair because concreters put it in and quite often they don't do it correctly. So we're left with either an immediate repair on the point of actually its initial pour, or many years later because of the way that it was constructed, the original process, that the ingress of water and salt then creates this thing we commonly call concrete cancer.
Okay, right. So I've heard of concrete cancer. So I imagine that this would be challenging, right? Because I'm just thinking, like, if you look at and I know you deal with body corporates, which we're going to talk about, but you're dealing with large residential apartment buildings, which are made of this thing called, concrete.
Yeah.
So if it gets concrete cancer, that can be quite catastrophic if things turn pear-shaped, right?
It is catastrophic, and trying to, as you said, you didn't know what it was, and you'll have a basic knowledge of the industry. Trying to get people to understand that they've bought into a unit complex 20 or 30 years ago, thinking that they bought a concrete structure, one, and two, that reason for being in that is that it would be maintenance free when they retired. And now today, after owning a unit, whether it be last week buying it or 20 years ago thinking it'd be part of their retirement processes, now they have a problem with concrete cancer that's literally eating the building away and chunks of concrete blowing off the side of it. And trying to get them to understand that it actually has a life. It has a growth rate of about 5 times itself per year. So if I was to give you a quote today for a $10,000 repair, this time next year, we're talking about $50,000.
Holy dooly. So, wow, I didn't know that. So, but how does one get into concrete repairs? Like when we talk purpose and mission, how did you end up in concrete repairs?
It's something I've known about and had to do little bits of throughout my building career. I'm actually a licensed builder and used to build houses and renovations at the high end of the market throughout the Sydney area for many years. And then about 18 years ago, moved out of Sydney to the Sunshine Coast up here on beautiful Queensland, southeast Queensland. And it was a smaller, almost town back in those days. And we hit a little thing called the GFC. My building business literally collapsed. There was zero work here on the coast. Every builder on the coast was either driving to Brisbane every single day to find something, or they joined the mines and went out, doing that type of work. At the time, unfortunately, I was going through a divorce/separation and ended up basically as a single dad and had to find something that would sustain me to be able to stay with my kids and look after them, pretty much as a full-time dad. And one particular job fell on my desk one day that was a concrete repair job. We completed the job. We won the job, completed it. And I came home and not knowing what the market was in that area of the industry, came home, literally got the old yellow pages because I'm a little bit that way, scrolled through yellow pages for concrete repairers, concrete spalling, etc. Went to a thing called Google because, again, not being too savvy, went to a little thing called Google, and obviously I didn't have a wife anymore to tell me the answer. So I found that on the coast here there was only one other person doing what I was thinking about doing, and from there then started a business, created a web page. Again, didn't understand that process. Got a friend of mine to hook one up and put it together, and got a phone call at the end of the week of that web page being installed, and I thought I'd broken the internet. Again, literally, he said, "You need to get over here. We've got to sort this out." And I literally went into panic mode. We got over there and he told me, "We've had 57 hits on a one-page website with one photograph, maybe two, and one paragraph, and you've had 2 phone calls in a week." He said, "When we do this for people," he said, "we don't see that in 3 to 6 months." And that was with no Google AdWords, no marketing, no nothing. It was just one page. He said, "We have to take it down." Again, I thought the police literally, and believe me when I say, I thought the police were going to come and take me away because I had literally broken the internet. And so we then moved on to a 2-page website, which, lasted for another 4 or 5 years. And we built a business out to about from zero that particular time, which is now 13 years ago, to about a $780,000 business. So wow. It certainly changed the way that we live.
Amazing. So, Concrete Repairs, and I know a little bit about you and your team because I've done some work with you guys, obviously.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that is a kind of a superpower of yours is that you keep you and your team constantly trained and you keep yourself constantly update with the latest in concrete repairs, and which is obviously a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So where does someone like yourself who's in concrete repairs, which is a relatively niche market, how do you go and get yourself and your team trained?
There's actually, again, learning as I went along. We found an association that actually did concrete repair training.
Mm-hmm.
So myself, by that time, I'd been running probably about 9 or 12 months. And so we've been getting the product suppliers come out and give us instruction on site because they want to sell more product. So they helped us out. And then we found the association and went along to their 2-day training program, which then gave us all a big insight. And we ran with that information we still send our guys along to that as we do today. But the other part is keeping up to date with the new products, or even just keeping our new guys that come on board, having the suppliers come out and do on-site training for them. So when
you say suppliers, what sort of suppliers are we talking about?
The product suppliers, because when we do concrete repairs, it's not just a normal concrete goes back in to do the repair. So a lot of our work, or we do about, how can I put this? About 80% of all the work we do is actually redoing other people's repairs because they don't understand the processes involved to do it correctly, and therefore it just comes back again. That part of those processes they will use, they'll go down to Bunnings, buy a bag of product for $10 and come back and put a bit of rust kill on and patch over the bit that's fallen out. The second the other flip side to that we do is the product, the same size bag that we use costs about $70. And therefore the costs are a lot more expensive. But these products are specialized products. And one of the things they do they have a positive, negative, all things do have a positive, negative charge throughout the product. And as it comes to align with the concrete that we've actually jackhammered away and we've got to the fresh, nice concrete, these little positive negatives will flip themselves to attach to the actual concrete and make that bond strong so it's not going to fall off again. Mm-hmm. They also have polymers and other products in them to stop the concrete cancer coming back again.
So it's actually quite a technical process. Like, people think concrete and they see, people in their nice green shirts out there with a concrete trowel and, making sure the dog doesn't walk on it. But it's actually a lot more complicated than that, David, is what I'm hearing.
The repair side is, and we have a little saying in our business here, is that you may not get us this time, you may not get us next time, but you will get us. So that's a little in-house joke that we keep amongst ourselves. Mainly because there are so many guys out there doing concrete repairs that sadly are costing their clients tens of thousands of dollars. You can imagine that, we may quote on the same job and their quote comes in at 1,000 and ours comes in at 5 or 10. And they do this a dodgy repair, and within 12 months, the dodgy repair is you're actually better off not doing it, because you then trap more moisture into that concrete area, and the growth rate expands not from 5 times itself per year, but it will go out to up to 25 times itself per year. So our original quote that might be $10,000 is then $25,000.
So I think there's an interesting piece here, because we have viewership all around the country, all around the world, and there are a lot of people who may have concrete repair issues, and they can't physically use you because they're not on the Sunshine Coast. So I would be interested to find out, and I also use this as part of my workshop process. But if you, David Bellamy, was in Melbourne, for example, and you had concrete cancer, and you needed to select someone to repair that concrete, what is a checklist that you would run through yourself, which would go, okay, if they can prove this, what is that checklist for you? How would someone go about selecting a concrete repair company?
We attach all of that to all our quotes so that people know who to go to look for as we go through our process. But the number one thing is that you actually need to be a open licensed builder, or down to a restricted license in Queensland. So I'm assuming that throughout other states it would be very similar. Mm-hmm. The reason that needs to be a licensed builder is because the work we carry out is actually structural, and therefore you can't do it if you're just a waterproofer or a painter or all these other trades that come along and tell people, oh yes, we can do concrete repairs. Yes, they can, but they're actually not licensed. So number one is find yourself the appropriate licensed builder to carry out these works. Number two is, do they have experience and or training in the industry? Again, we do a lot of work for other builders who don't understand it. And like, as you said yourself, and we come across this all the time, are builders who go, well, I don't know enough about it. I don't know the processes. I don't know the products. There is actually a whole list of Australian standards that we must work to carry out these repairs. It's not just slap it on and she'll be right. And then the third thing would be, I'd be looking for who are their recent clients? Like, and when I say recent, you could look at us, for instance, and say, how long, how far back have you been trading and what recalls have you had? And from our end, we're happy to go back 13 years because we've not had a callback on any of the works that we've done in that period, because we work to the processes that have been given by the manufacturers.
Nice. So now we're going to talk about something that I love, which is sales. So we've done a little bit of work in the past, but and I preface this that you work with a really challenging customer group in body corporates. And anyone that doesn't know body corporates, is made up of a lot of people in the organization that all have to have a voice. So that's challenging in itself. And you do a lot of work with multi-tiered organizational structure. So I'm interested to find out from you as to what are the biggest challenges in and around your sales process when you're dealing with so many people that are involved in the decision-making process. And you've still got hair, which says you've obviously mastered it.
Thank you, Martin. The challenges that we come up against are working from a body corp and coming from that building background where I was primarily building for, homeowners, one-on-one clients, where our sales, going through those processes were like a 45 to 50% conversion rate. And that was, pretty common for us back when we were doing that type of work. Coming into this space, we've seen, pretty much a 50% drop in that, and had to get our heads around, and it was even lower before starting to make some changes and talking to you quite a bit about those and others. So the things we've done is we've added layers of information, because we're not able to get in front of these body corporates. What we find is they're generally run by retirees, because they've got the time to sit on a committee and look after these things. And these retirees they're quite opinionated. mostly ranging their age group between probably 65s being a little bit young, but usually starting around the 70 to 75 mark through to the 85 mark. And we do offer at every point to come and meet with them in their actual committee meetings after we've done a site visit. So if we're lucky, we may meet somebody on site, we may not, because they don't even live there. A whole block may be rented out and they're just investment properties. So we literally do a walk around. We don't necessarily even get onto every balcony. So we're standing on a ground looking 7 stories into the sky, trying to make an assessment and put something together. So we do things like we make suggestions of getting job specs written up, which again, it's a new thing that we're just starting to offer clients. If we haven't got them, we suggest that or are going to do them, they get engineers or somebody to come and look at them. And so that one of the things then means that everybody that's going to quote on that, because all body corporates must have 2 to 3 quotes submitted before they're allowed to make a decision. So at least if we can get some sort of job spec process written up, it means everybody's working from the same page. And so the guy who's trying to cut the corners won't pass muster in that process.
And I think this is the challenging thing in sales, and I know you've experienced it, because when you're out on site, you might be dealing with one of the people from the body corporate who just happens to be available at that time. And then you're providing them your investment proposal, and then you're relying on someone else to sell your service and your product to the rest of the body corporate.
Yep.
And if you're a premium product, which you guys are, I know you're not the cheapest.
No.
That's not easy. That's not easy.
It's not. And I suppose we rely on, it's more our back end. But again, that example came up only last week where we'd written a proposal, we'd submitted it, a couple of questions came back through email, and the guy was actually trying to work off the top of his head on the information I'd actually given him and quoted a number 1,000% below what the actual repair cost was per square meter. Yes. So he was coming back trying to work out why a number was this number and when our repair rate was this number. And he said, from my memory of our conversation. Now, this comes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, is we have all of this information in the back end of our quote, in our terms, certain parts of it in terms and conditions. And then we have an information sheet on different things, from the question you asked earlier about how would you choose somebody. And then we go on to the types of problems that their building has, so that they can discuss that with the other repairers that are going to come in and look at their property. So we're aware that we're going to be quoting against people. I don't have a problem with that at all. In fact, it's part of a game for me. It's just how best can we win these clients over.
Nice. Now, we were talking off air earlier, and I'm not going to give revenue numbers; they're confidential. But it's fair to say that, or it is fact that in the last 2 years, your revenue has doubled in the past 2 years. So, why has that occurred? What did you change in your sales process that has made such a dramatic difference?
I'll start with just me. I've been aware for a long time now that anything that's happening is all just, it's on me and my head. So the first part of the training I've gone through was a sort of a 12 to 18 months of just trying to deal with my shit. Is the only way, best way to put it.
Yeah.
Once we started to get over that, or I started to get over that, then starting to get into that sales process of what have we got to improve? Where are we going to find these clients? What's happening? So we went through a process where we were at the top of our game, and then over about an 18-month or 2 year period, we saw a massive shrinkage of the business, nearly up to 50%. And then starting to introduce the new things into our business, which in our case, we looked at Facebook and we looked at other forms of multimedia, and for some funny reason, 85-year-olds just aren't looking for anything on that sort of medium. So primarily we recognized that our business is actually business to business, not business to a bloke who's on a body corporate. So we consider our body corporates now as businesses. So we have different layers of that. So we actually have the body corporate that are the members of the block of units that we will be quoting directly to. But then above them, for many units, there might be strata managers or that type of system where they'll have somebody managing their building for them. So they were the connections that we started to make. So we started doing direct calls to strata management companies. Then we started to recognize that we use engineers, and other engineers would be not quoting, but they may have done a job spec or something for a particular client that we were quoting for. So we then started following those guys up after we'd been asked to quote on a job and offer our services to be referred to other work directly through them. So I know that in one conversation with you one day, you said, okay, make a list of 10 different areas of new business that you can go to and start calling, and quite literally, got onto that week and made a list. Now, sitting just over, I'm trying to get my hands right here, over that shoulder there, I think it's at to about 16 new areas of business that I have sitting on that list today. Now, a lot of the original 10 have been crossed off because we've exhausted it. Mm-hmm. We've kept a note of all the calls we've made and when we've made them to those areas. And then as something else changes in our business and somebody else calls from a new area, we just add it to our list and go, okay.
Well, I love this. So you actually have a habit in your business of discovering, finding out where potential new markets are, and then actually doing cold outreach.
Correct. Yeah.
So is that a discipline that you have? Is that like a structured thing? Is that done once a week, once a month? What does that look like?
It's done minimum of once a week. Mm-hmm. So we do two forms of calls within our business. One is calls to new business, which will go for a minimum of 1 hour every single week. And if there's time within the week and there haven't been a huge number of quotes come in, or we get done early, then my sales guy will jump back on the phone again and make more calls. So that's always an option. He's not to be sitting there twiddling his thumbs. It's either you're writing quotes or you're making calls for new quotes.
Awesome. So you actually have a block, so an hour a week, which is basically just for cold outreach.
We do one for cold outreach and we do one for follow-up calls. So our sales process is one that can take anywhere from 3 months out to 18 months to 2 years as these body corporates slowly turn their wheels. And so we will go back through calls up to 18 months and 2 years until we get them crossed off. So we do follow-up calls until we get a no, even up to jobs that are up to 2 years old.
That's fantastic. And for anyone listening, the power of cold outreach cannot be underestimated. I know there's a lot of people that believe, cold outreach, why would you bother? But cold outreach is extremely effective, and most companies don't do it. And that's one of the reasons why it is effective. And so I'm interested to find out from you, David, in regards to your team. How did they go with the cold outreach? Like, was that something that they were hesitant to do to start with? What was the mindset around cold outreach?
Well, before I had the sales team, which is Gary now, it was me. So I just sit here, I procrastinate and put it off mostly for the whole of the week. And one of my tops every week was to do an hour of calls. And usually I'd get to Friday and go, oh, shit, I've got to get this done. And I would sit there on a Friday at some point of the day, usually earlier in the day, because I'd go, well, you don't want to be called at 3:30 in the afternoon. And that's how I started the process. And then as I've gone through now, we've had salespeople in here and trying to find the right one that would stick as just part of a process. And just getting those guys onto that same, processes. Mm-hmm. Okay, on Tuesday between 10 and 11 is when you're going to make calls. Or I've allowed them to feel and find what day suits them as well, with discussion and work out what will work for both for where I've seen it work and where they think they'd be more comfortable with it too.
Fantastic. And again, off air earlier on, you were telling me that you've got a meeting later on today. Yep. In which you're going to be talking with a potential client, and the deal size is basically your entire annual revenue from 2 years ago, or about 50% of this year's annual revenue. So We've got a couple of minutes left. So just talk me through how that deal came about and what process that deal is at the moment.
Okay, so that deal came back quite literally from making one of those cold calls business to business to an engineering company. Yes, thank you, Martin. And we've done now probably 3 or 4 jobs for her, small to medium-sized jobs for what, we would call, anything from 10,000 to 50,000 in that range. And then we did a sort of one quite a bit bigger than that. And this one's just come in at 400,000. So that's a big call. That's
a lot of concrete cancer, David.
That's a shitload. It's not just concrete cancer in something like this. This is a whole building and this is just, here's the exciting part. This is just the basement for that building. That's not the other 10 floors that we still need to look at.
So I'm immediately going to, wow, that's a big investment for someone that $400,000 to invest in concrete repairs. That's a shitload. So what went wrong in that job in the first place? Or is this just aging?
One, it's aging, but 2 is that, there's no nice way to put it other than, they're not brain surgeons, concreters. And concreters then employ steel fixers that are sort of not quite as sharp as concreters. And so there's little things that sort of get left out, or it's time to go to the pub at 3 o'clock and, that just don't get done at the time. And over, if the steel doesn't have enough cover over the concrete, then this causes major problems. So over time, and for a large building, a 15-story building that has been sitting in salt water because the basement is below tide level, at tide level. So as it has salt water ingress into it, which causes other problems as well. The degradation has just got to a point of you either fix it or you lose it. Yeah,
right. Wow. Okay, well, congratulations on getting that lead to where it is, and I'm looking forward to getting the thumbs up on an emoji when that deal finally comes to fruition. But believe it or not, we've got nearly through half an hour already, but I would really like for you to share with our listeners, if anyone has got an issue with concrete repairs or would like to reach out to you in regards to concrete repairs, how do they contact David Bellamy, the guru at Suncoast Concrete Repairs? David?
I'd say please don't contact me. Call Gary, who is the guru now of concrete repair costings.
Nice.
So how to contact us? We have a website, which is suncoastconcreterepairs.com.au. Have a look, and we have a direct, send us a message through if you need something quoted on. If you want to call us directly, we have a direct phone number line on there to call through on, and or drop us a line onto our Facebook page, which shows many examples of what we do and how we do it, and we'll come back to you and make contact. If there's people out there from other states, I'm happy to help you choose somebody, and or if there's builders out there that want to know how to get onto this process, and the journey on how they could start this, I'm more than happy to talk to them or work out some sort of training process for them through our business directly through theirs if they're interested.
Great, David. Well, it's been fun. It's awesome we're able to clear some time for each other on this call this morning. It's always lovely to see your smiling face. And you go out there and continue to crush it, although I guess that's not a terminology you'd use in concrete repairs, is it, David?
Well, we jackhammer it and we water blast it, so crushing it's pretty appropriate.
There we go. And to everybody, have a happy Easter. We're going to have next week, we're going to have a break on Easter Tuesday from this live event, but we'll be back the Tuesday following, which would make that the 26th, something around that. We'll be back. So have a happy and safe Easter, everybody. And David, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Martin. Talk